Hi, my name's Bill Schaeffer with an amazing true story that actually happened to me during an audition for America's Got Talent. This was in the spring of 2010. I had a part-time job playing piano and I was working on some music recordings. I was at the recording studio working with the engineer when another customer came in. And this client told me about America's Got Talent and how easy it was to register. Since the preliminary auditions, were in a few weeks and I had some free time, I decided to do it. So I signed up. Now the audition was in Los Angeles and it was a bright, sunny, beautiful morning. And there were 3 days of auditioning. And I think they auditioned almost 3,000 people every single day. Because when I got there, there were hundreds of people already there. And the entrance line stretched for blocks, and it was several people wide. So I parked, I got out, and I was wearing kind of a Hawaiian shirt, kind of like this, but different. And I was unprepared. I was just going to play something on piano and kind of a boogie woogie or blues or something like that. But I was woefully unprepared. So I got at the end of this line, and it was a huge line, blocks long, and it ended up taking me 3 hours to get into the auditions. And we waited in the sun, in the shade while we could, for 3 hours. And I was about in the middle of the line, and there were a lot of people still after me. And I was glad I had my briefcase with me. If anyone knows me, I usually carry a briefcase around. And I used it to block the sun. So I stayed out of the sun as much as possible because there really wasn't much shade. And while we were waiting in line, they did some introductory pieces with the camera go dollying by the line and everyone cheering and saying hi and whoa and this and that. And there were a lot of nice people in line. And I remember meeting a lot of interesting people, and a lot of people were really prepared with good costumes. After about 2 hours, we're standing in line in the middle of this grass area with a few palm trees. And I'm just talking with the people near me, just about small talk and chit chat and performing and music and this and that, when a bee starts buzzing around me. And so I step back. Now I have an idea, whether it's true or not, that bees kind of pick up on your temperament. And that if you think kindly towards bees, they'll leave you alone. And if you're agitated or angry, this will stir up the bee and make it more angry. So as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking kindly thoughts and trying to get the bee to leave me alone. And sure enough, the bee just flies away off into the sky. After this bee flies away, I turn to the people beside me and I explain my idea of bee telepathy, where the bees can pick up on your thought. And since I had just thought kindly thoughts toward this bee, he just flew away. And no sooner had I said that, then this bee comes dive bombing towards me and at a furious sound and really fast, and it's all I can do to dodge out of the way to avoid him. And then this bee is very angry, and I'm running around and he's chasing me. He obviously, of the hundreds of people waiting in line, this bee has picked me, that he's interested in me. Now, there's people from all walks of life in line, in all sorts of backgrounds. But I'm the old guy with the briefcase, and I'm running around, and I'll show you. I'm using the briefcase like this to protect myself against the bee. And I'm dancing around like this, and the bee, and this goes on for about 10 minutes. And everyone is laughing. Now, I don't want to like hit the bee out of the air or try and kill it or anything like that, but it's getting a little bit silly. And during those 10 minutes, and literally, the bee was following me, and I was kind of putting it off like that the whole time. I finally got close enough to the front of the line that I asked the people there, the handlers, the ushers, if I could just go inside. And they said, sure, go ahead, go inside. So I went inside. And it was at the Staples Center. So it was a huge audition with people all over the place. And there was a big room with the handlers where we started out. And there I could see how prepared everyone was. I remember there was a pirate orchestra and several singing groups that all had matching costumes, and I realized I was woefully unprepared. But everyone I met inside that saw me out in the line said, "Oh, there's the bee man. How you doing, bee man? Seen any bees lately?" All afternoon I got that. And I still can't figure it out because I have no hard feelings towards bees. I like bees. The only thing I can think is that shirt had certain types of flowers on it, like this one, and that it was those flowers that attracted the bee. But I tell you, I was for 10 minutes dancing and jumping around with that briefcase to protect myself from that bee. And I've never had an experience like that in my life before or since. And the only thing I can think is it must have been a killer bee. And killer bees are much more tenacious than regular bees. But that's my bee story. Well, it was a fun day, despite the adventure with the bee. But nevertheless, when I got home, I got rid of all my Hawaiian shirts, except for just a very few. It was very unsettling to be attacked by a bee, and I did not want that to happen again at some inopportune time. And in fact, I rarely wear Hawaiian shirts anymore. This is Bill Schaeffer with a true story of how I got attacked by a killer bee at the America's Got Talent auditions in Los Angeles. Thank you, and leave your comments below.